And now we are being live streamed. Good morning, everybody. Hang tight while we get ourselves situated as normal, and hope everybody's having a wonderful, sunny, bright Monday morning. I hope. How about you, Lori? How are you doing today?
Yeah, it's definitely Monday.
It's a Monday.
Yeah. It's funny how you go from weekend mode to Monday morning mode.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Oh, so what are we going to talk about today?
Well, all things considering, I'd like to say, hey, it's a good day, but we've got a heavy topic to talk about today. We know that there are a lot of crazy things going on in the world, in our country, in our state, and when it hits our cities, within our county, it hits home hard. So we thought we'd talk about the incident, the terrible incident that happened on Saturday, where the real estate community was affected. And we don't have a lot of details, but we do know that a couple of real estate professionals went into a home that turned into a dangerous situation, and a shooting ensued, and somebody ended up not surviving. And I'm hearing and reading conflicting stories, so I don't want to, say I know what happened or who is the person that did not survive. At this point, all we know is it affects our communities literally, and then it affects our community, meaning our industry. And it's just terrible. It's devastating. When I got the link to the video, I was around Saturday at 5 p.m. and just watching it, like I could just feel my heart, tearing apart. And at the moment, hearing the initial story, you don't even know who it is. And then to find out, the person that sent it to me said that someone within their office was affected. It was someone in their office that was there, but at that point, I still don't even know, the status. Just really ripped my heart apart. So yeah, this industry is just, it is dangerous. We know it. And, we talk about it in September when it's Realtor Safety Month. And then we tend to get a little more lax in what we do. And unfortunately, it's essential now that we take care of ourselves, and we pay more attention to the situational awareness and make sure we know what we're doing and that people know where we're going, and we have a way for people to find out where we are. So yeah, that's what we're talking about this morning.
And it's a good time to remember this is the second one that's happened in Orange County. I don't remember the date on the other one where they had the mobile home sales office where a disgruntled person came in and shot one of the real estate professionals there as well. In two different situations, but the binding factor is anger, whatever that anger is, whether it's misdirected or not. We just need to be very cognizant of the situations that we're walking into. Before this started, I had mentioned to Lori, the police always say that the worst situations they walk into are family disputes. And I think as realtors, we need to be very aware whenever we're going to something that could possibly become one of these situations, whether it is a divorce consultation situation or, a family having, issues on, resolving, the death of a family member's property. We're walking into a potential, powder keg. Everybody might be cool, but you never know what kind of a turn it could take. A misunderstanding, somebody just finally hitting the wall on what they can tolerate, the reality of the situation hitting somebody, there's a lot of things that could trigger a situation like this. I don't know. What advice do you have for agents in the situation where you just, there's a potential, granted, there's potential for anything,
Yeah.
but there's a potential situation. What do you recommend?
Well, I certainly don't have all the answers, but what I will say in response to that is, I was part of an email thread discussing this, and somebody had chimed in saying, I walked into my own little domestic issue nightmare on Friday afternoon. Out of my mouth came the words, "I come in peace." And that allowed me to temporarily de-escalate a bad situation that I didn't see coming. And so prior to reading that, I wouldn't have had an answer to that question. I don't know, but here's somebody who has, a recent perfect example. That's all that was said, those two sentences about whatever situation this person walked into. So without knowing any other details, I think that you have to use some logic, and you have to use some intuition when you're walking into situations. And I think that's a perfect statement. I come in peace. And at least, if nothing else, it may help de-escalate, as he says, or diffuse the situation, because you never know. I mean, in oftentimes in these situations, there's a perception that you are taking sides. You are there coming in on behalf of one of the parties, and the other party's already mad, and now you're an enemy. And so I think that's a brilliant way to just sort of, come in peace. I'm here to help. And we absolutely don't know, like you said, what's going to trigger somebody who can seem completely logical, professional, fill in any adjective. They just seem fine any other time. Suddenly something sets them off. And I've learned recently in the last several months that you never know how someone's going to react to something. Someone who otherwise could seem level-headed most of the time can feel like literally their heart's being ripped out, and just become angry or spiteful or nasty. And we are not trained as therapists, but we know we play them in this industry. We are therapists, but we're not trained for things like this. And we talked about the shooting at Knott's Berry Farm a few weeks ago, where I shared the story about my daughter being there. And we're not trained in how to react in situations in public. And here you're not in like a public setting when you're going to someone's home to talk about real estate. And yet now we have to employ all of these tactics and strategies that we're not trained on. And so I do have a couple of friends that we've been collaborating on some work in the safety space. And so we're having a video meeting later this week. I mean, I immediately shared this story with them, and minutes after I received it, and got back headline after headline of things. Both of these people are in other states, but one of them, they're just the headlines, and I'm trying to find the actual articles. But eviction moratorium killed 2 Kentucky real estate agents yesterday. This article was from last week. Essentially, landlords and agents delivering notices. Tenants are pulling guns. Another one is a story from March. Florida 15-year-old charged with kidnapping and killing a real estate agent. And you think, how the heck could a 15-year-old do this? I did find that article, and I read it, and it was a troubled kid who had had issues since he was 12. He's only 15, and he had gun charges against him at age 12. Just story after story. Black realtor client handcuffed during home showing after report of break-in. It's just, we're seeing it more and more in the headlines, and we have to be sure that we are equipped. And so this work that these two ladies and I are doing, Tracy Hawkins, she's the safety lady. She's known as the safety lady, and she does some work with NAR. She has some great training. So I'll be, after I have this meeting with them later this week, I'll see what resources I can bring back to this group and what we can share. Connie Myers, she does disaster training, and the both of them together, along with me, I come in from the brokerage standpoint of how do you protect your brokerage and how do you protect your business and your agents, and what does that look like? We're working on some pretty important work that, you know, I hate that we have to work on it, but we do. So I will absolutely be bringing more info to this group as we develop that, because I don't know everything. I don't know, you know, what we should be doing. And so the both of them in their space really are educating me. So.
Well, I think any advice that they can help provide that you can bring to the group would be much appreciated. Pam mentioned in the comments, maybe we need a seminar on how to identify dangerous situations. Profilers look for signs like rapid, heavy breathing, clenching fist, etc. You know, and the sad thing is, you know, you mentioned the 15-year-old that murdered the realtor. You know, I mean, the gun's a great equalizer, you know, and I'm sure if this person in Huntington Beach didn't have access to a firearm, there wouldn't have been, you know, 3 people shot, him being the 4th, from what I heard. You know, it's, you know, we have to be careful. There's a lot of anger out there right now. There is a lot of anger. I don't know what's up. You know, it seems almost, you know, is a weird byproduct of the pandemic situation. We just have a lot of anger. There's a lot of guns. Put anger and guns together, bad things happen. You know, I think we just really need to be very, very intuitive and listen to our gut. If a situation doesn't feel good, if you just are like, something's funky here, just, you know, leave. Just say, I'm sorry, I have an emergency, I need to go. I mean, there's, if you can tell, you know, and there, you know, I think most of us have been in a situation where you're sitting there in an open house or whatever, and you're just like, something's not right. Something's not right here. You know, then listen to your instincts, listen to your gut. Nothing's worth your life. No sale is worth your life. Especially with all of the people that are going out and meeting strangers on cold call appointments or lead appointments where you have no idea who these people are, especially at a vacant house. You know, sit down with your broker, sit down with your family, figure out, you know, a code you have where you can text it or do a quick call and then just keep the phone open, or have, you know how to, you know, do the automatic 911 call on your phone. You know, talk to your broker, office manager, see what they recommend. You know, definitely, I think somebody somewhere should be able to track you on your phone. And as much as we all like to not think that we're being tracked and monitored and watched and everything, we are being tracked, monitored, and watched. Anybody who has a cell phone. So, you know, make it work in your favor. Pam says maybe we all get concealed carry weapon license. I don't know about you, but I don't have the gumption to be making decisions like that in a split second. You know,
yeah, and that in itself brings a whole host of other concerns. And you know, I'm not in favor or against, but you know, as a broker, that brings different questions and different concerns. And there are no answers when it comes to the concealed weapons in terms of what does our National Association offer in terms of guidance. I mean, I looked into that a few years ago and was looking to develop a company policy. And, our attorneys said, I don't know. Let's check with CAR and NAR. And neither one of them had any guidance on that, because they don't want to take a stand on that, because it's about safety and it's about potential legal issues. And when you think about it, I certainly wouldn't want to prevent someone from having the opportunity to protect themselves. And yet there are different dangers if they have a gun and do something incorrectly. I would be more inclined to want to prevent that. I don't want them to do something incorrectly. So the natural instinct would be, let's not allow it. Well, the alternative to that is if you don't allow it and then they're in a situation where they couldn't protect themselves because of your policy, then that's a problem for you as well. So as far as I can see, there's still no guidance on that, because from state and national, they look at that as a broker decision, which I agree with. But we sometimes want to look for that higher mothership to say, hey, here's the pros and cons, but we don't have that. So, I would, if you're a broker and you're thinking about, do we want to have a policy on concealed weapons or not, definitely consult an attorney, because there's pros and cons to it. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that.
Well, and just curious, I was thinking of something, and then a comment popped up here. What about your E&O insurance? I know that sounds like kind of a bizarre thing, but I'm going worst case scenario here. You think you're in danger, you probably aren't, but you just, and you injure somebody or kill somebody or something like that. If you're doing in the course of business, we talk about it with auto insurance, that is, if you're, driving from point A to point B and get into an accident while you are doing business, that, then the broker can possibly be dragged into it if, they've got one of those insurance companies that do that. What are your thoughts on that? And then I'll touch on the other part.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, because we've not explored that in our own policies to see whether it's covered or not. I don't know whether it would fall under that insurance. I would certainly believe, hey, anyone is going to look to your E&O, your workers' comp, and your general liability. All three of those policies are going to be examined to figure out, okay, who's deciding they're not covering it. So let's point to the other one and see if they'll cover it. And I don't know if any of those policies actually cover it. Let's suppose they do. Then they're looking to, well, what was your company policy? Did you have a policy against it? Well, now it's probably not covered because you allowed an agent to have it, or you didn't know. Or maybe someone was negligent in how they handled the situation in the split second they had to make a decision. So insurance is designed to not pay out. I think you gotta assume you're not going to have coverage if something goes wrong. And then you got to hope that you do. So I don't have an answer on that, because I haven't even explored it within our own three policies. Is there any provision in there? And so that's on my to-do list to check, because I don't know.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time comprehending that we're having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just pretty ridiculous, in a very tragic way. James mentioned concealed weapons is a personal choice, not a business choice. Our brokers or NAR or CAR are not part of the decision. Note that it should only be taken on with proper and extensive training.
I agree to 99% of that, but I'll share the reason that I had to consider it as a business decision. Several years ago, when I was a broker for a company, an agent came to me and said, I'm trying to get a concealed weapon. They require my employer to sign this because I've indicated it's for my job. And so when they're looking for the employer to sign off on it, then that's when we thought about it and said, wait a minute, we don't have a decision on this. Now, had the person said it was not for their employment, maybe they wouldn't have come to me. I don't know, because I don't know how that works. I had never had anyone approach me before. In a company of 1,800 agents, there probably were a couple at least that had the concealed weapon, but maybe they put the reason as something else and it didn't come to the employer. But that is the context of how it came to me and how we started discussing, do we make a policy on this? Now, the interesting thing was, this was a brand new agent who said they were concerned because they were going to do farming and they wanted to protect themselves. And that's understandable. That's respectable. I asked the person where they were going to be farming and they said Irvine. So then my eyebrows kind of went up like, I think Irvine is one of the top safest cities in the country. So to be honest, I don't even know how that played out. I know we didn't sign it as the employer. It's very possible that person said, let me fill this application out differently so I don't have to go through my employer. I don't even know how it panned out because I think I ended up leaving there maybe 6 months later. So it never came back across my desk. So I do agree it's a personal choice and I'd rather it not be a business decision. But when they're carrying it during the course of business, I don't know. I think the company should weigh in to some extent, at least to have some guidelines. Like maybe not, I don't know. Can they bring it in the office? Yes or no? Is it just for when they're doing open house or farming? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a conversation I think probably brokers should be having, especially in light of a situation like this. It will make more people consider their own safety. Many will consider possibly, maybe a gun would help them feel better in their personal safety after extensive training. But, there's still, there's a lot of gray here.
Yeah, and I do want to add too, we weren't looking for CAR or NAR to give us guidance. We were looking for some information. I mean, I know I said guidance, and in reality, it is like, give us some ideas, give us some, pros and cons. It was more for that. I certainly wouldn't have wanted them to say it's a yes or it's a no. We weren't looking for that. But just like, what comes to mind is the escalation clauses, because I have the Q&A on my desktop here. I can see it. And it's like, CAR doesn't say don't do it or do it. They say, here's the danger. And if you're going to do it, here's what we would suggest, but consult your own attorney. So that's kind of what we were looking for at that time too. And there was nothing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to note that a lot of people inside and outside the industry seem to think that CAR and NAR are technically the mothership of all real estate agents, when in all honesty, it's a trade association. They have resources, they can get information, they can provide information, but most everything is going to be an individual broker's decision. It's brokerage by brokerage. That's something that I think it would help a lot of us to understand and convey that to the public that tends to think that we're all under the thumb of NAR and CAR. They provide things for us to do our jobs. That's the way we need to look at them, instead of they're handing down, gospel law. We're all independent contractors that are agents, unless you're a salaried agent. We have brokerages that make these decisions. This is a brokerage by brokerage decision, along with a whole bunch of other stuff right now. I think it's very important for office managers and brokers to really be in communication with your agents and be sure that you have a way to confirm that your agents have gotten this information, whether it be safety protocol, escalation clause protocol, COVID protocol. No matter what it is, you need to be talking with your agents if you're a broker, and if you're an agent, go talk to your broker if you need information. Hopefully we're going to be seeing ask your broker promotion coming soon. We're hoping to try to draw attention to this, because it's not your local association, state association, national association. You need to be talking to the person that's holding your license. And if you're holding people's licenses, you need to be talking to them, and you need to be sure that you're documenting that you're talking to them. We've got a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. I mean, 2 years ago, who would ever thought that we're having this conversation? I mean, yeah, has there always been, inherent danger in this business? Absolutely. But I mean, we've got this weird anger, pandemic crap, and that's about all I can call it. This is weird times, and we have to realize that a lot of people, they thought that they were messed up during, like the shelter in place orders. No, there's a lot of people that are really suffering right now. I think I saw it in one of the newspapers that was sitting around my house yesterday, saying that there's just more people that are having more problems now than they did a year ago. And we need to be sensitive to that. We also, need to look at ourselves as well and just say, are we taking as good a care of it ourselves as we possibly could? Because this is a very stressful time. It's a very stressful time. Just drive on the freeway and you can just watch, people driving like they hadn't, like they forgot how to drive on a freeway. And we've been able to drive on the freeways for a while. We shouldn't be still having this anger and all of this other stuff, but there's a lot of anger out there. It's, just be safe, everybody. That's about all I can say about that.
Yeah, when I think about the fundamentals of anything related to running your business, whether you're the broker or not, you're running your own business. But I look at some fundamentals, and you always have to be risk management minded. You always have to think and act proactively. So you have to plan. I'm not suggesting you live in a bubble of fear, but you have to be proactive and think what could happen. So when you anticipate something that could happen, you start formulating a plan, and planning is so key. But you're always looking for the ways to prevent the risk. And so when it comes to like our personal safety, what are some of the things that we can do to minimize the risk? We can't help walking into situations or being in places where something happens. We can't help that, but how can we protect ourselves? So you talked about, on our phones, the GPS, absolutely, certain times. I don't like to have my location on all the time. I don't need all my apps knowing what I'm doing. Why does DocuSign want to know where my location is every time I try to sign something from my phone? It's none of their damn business where I'm at. But there are different things we can put in place. There's some really great jewelry. A friend of mine actually gave me a piece a couple of years ago. It's called Invisaware. And I thought about it this morning and forgot to grab it before, but it's just a necklace. And I can hold the necklace in a certain way that connects to my phone and will allow me to activate, the backup plan from the piece of jewelry. I have not been wearing it, and I think that I'm going to start wearing it. It's called, is it Invisaware? I think it's Invisaware. I looked it up a minute ago, and now I can't find where. I'm on two computers right now, so yeah, Invisaware. They've got really nice necklaces, jewelry, all sorts of different things. There's a bunch of different products. But in addition to that, as we're running our business, another fundamental is from the brokerage standpoint, the policies and procedures. We don't always have to look at those as the rules, but those can also, and they are, but they can also be the guidance. Here's the procedure for handling an open house so that everyone feels safe. I think gone are the days where someone's doing an open house in a vacant house by themselves. We need to stop things like that. We need to have some sort of process in place, especially for our brand new agents who don't know any different. We need to tell them. And I think I shared on one Monday morning Coffee and Compliance a long time ago. I was a brand new agent. I was previewing a property in a vacant house, and I ran through quick and was leaving, and some guy walked up and said, "Hey, are you an agent? Can I see the house?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm like brand new, and I'm like eager, come on in. And once we were in and I closed the door, I thought about it like, oh, well, I don't even know this person, and now I'm trapped in this house. And thankfully everything was fine, but the contact info he gave me was bad. It was like a PO box was his address. Like, it could have been a bad situation. I'm fortunate nothing happened. But as a broker, have some policies and procedures surrounding safety and different safety protocols, and along with that is systems. But equally important is the training. have these trainings, and from that, you know, if there is an incident, and whether it's a legal issue or a safety issue, you know, the entities that are going to do an investigation are going to look to you as, what did you, broker, have in place to minimize this risk? So did you have a policy and procedure? Did you have training? Did you have communication? And when we look at things from the legal point of view, we're always thinking, okay, where's our evidence? Where do we have documented that we told the client this? Where did we document that? DRE, legal, they're going to all come in and look at, where did you document that you were providing adequate supervision and adequate training in all of these areas. And we never had to have such a robust safety program, and we absolutely do now more than ever. So, and then and beyond communication, you know, you want to have a culture where you have this opportunity to talk about these things, to get feedback from each other, to get ideas and advice. And that's so important.
And especially if you're doing any sort of property management right now, you know, with, you know, if you're in a situation, you know, knock on wood, we've been very fortunate with our property management division to not have any issues, but in case you do property management and you do have tenants that might be disgruntled, you know, definitely have a plan in place if you have to go post something at their property or something like that. I mean, bring somebody with you, you know, and have a plan in place, because again, you got another anger situation that could be happening, and you really don't need to be walking into, you know, a situation where you're like, oh, I'm okay, I've got this. And believe me, I've said that to myself hundreds of times, and now I'm starting to think, you know what, get over yourself, Lisa. You're not invincible. You know, think before you put yourself in this situation. And if you're a property manager, think before you put yourself in the situation. Some of our comments, let's see. Pam says it's a good idea to partner up when meeting sellers, buyers, showing homes, open houses. Absolutely. Probably now more than ever, and especially on the open house front, especially if it's vacant. Have your, you know, one of your affiliate partners come join you. You know, there's safety in numbers, and that way they're helping you. Or bring an agent with you that would like to get some more experience. Or if you're a newer agent, bring a more experienced agent with you. And you know, there's definitely safety in numbers. Don't be by yourself in a vacant house. And let's see, Michael says, even for open houses, right now there's a lot of traffic, but establishing procedures now for partners for safety reasons. You know, absolutely. You know, it's just a time for us to kind of all reflect on what we're doing and figure out, how are we doing it? How can we do it better? How can we protect our agents? How can we protect ourselves? Let's see, we got another comment from James. And men, don't think because you're a man you can handle it yourself. Maybe you can, but be smart. We're all people. And actually, that reminds me of something that I think I heard. I'm not sure if you were there, Lori. You know, somebody was talking at one of like the CAR meetings or NAR meetings, that, you know, you're posting these pictures in your social media, whether you are the woman in the bikini or the guy next to your fancy car with your, you know, $10,000 watch. The guys get the calls just as much as the girls, where somebody's thinking, I'm going to go roll this dude and get that $10,000 watch off of him. So definitely, men, number one, I think everybody should remember what you're posting in your social media. You know, if you're giving the look of, look at me, I have all of these expensive things. I'm going to be holding an open house and you can just, you know, knock me out, gag me, and steal my purse and my designer whatevers. You know, I mean, think about what you're projecting out there, because this is what happens to the men too.
Yeah, in the story, the 15-year-old that kidnapped and killed the agent, it was a 15-year-old male who had a gun, which then, said, hey, get in the car, drive to the ATM machine, robbed him of $1,000, and then killed the agent. The agent was a man.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it happens, I think that we need to just be a little bit more cognizant of the persona that we're putting out there. And Pam says, if I posted myself in a bikini, people would totally avoid me. That might be a good safety measure.
Bam.
Oh, heavens. Well, there's just, we have to be smart. We have to, you have to think like, I hope I get her name right. Beverly Carter, the agent that was kidnapped and killed. Who the person, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I'm just going purely off of memory. I mean, they were watching her, putting her ads out and everything, saying this is a successful woman. She's got money. Let's go get her and we'll get her money, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That was,
that's what I remember too. That was what they felt the motive was, that they were looking at that. And I don't know necessarily if she was flashy in her advertisement of it, but there was a presumption that she's a real estate agent, therefore she's rich.
Yeah. And if people only knew the truth. But, I think it's just important for us to just really take a look at how we're portraying ourselves, especially on social media. There's things I see all the time where I'm just like, and I am far from a prude. But you're just like, really? Is this going to help you sell a house? Really? Is it? And
that's a different topic.
Well, same thing, because it's all safety. You put yourself out there. Yeah, but
I thought you were sort of implying more on the bikini shots.
Well, it could be a little bit of everything. It's just we you don't want to bring people in for the wrong reasons. You want to be seen as a good professional that knows your job and can do the job. I think that's what we all kind of need to really think about, and not give them any other reason to be stalking you at a open house or something like that, whether it's your watch or whatever. Okay, let's see, what do we have? Inez says, I'm going to delete my real estate Facebook page. Not that I'm flashy, but it could be perspective when I post my just listed, just sold. Different times we need to adjust. I'll keep my personal page, which is private. And then James says, also consider changing your address at the DRE to a mailing address instead of a physical address, as it's public record. Be just a little harder to find.
Good point. It's a really good point.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring up something that could be good for safety and could be bad for other reasons. And that's cameras. Cameras at listings. Cameras in people's homes. And it's interesting. I was asked to join in on a podcast conversation where they were talking about cameras and the use of cameras and laws regarding cameras. And then Tracy, the safety lady, posted something about that. And I'm like, ooh, something's telling me we probably need to have a little conversation about cameras. Because one of the interesting things that was discussed in both Tracy's post and the podcast was people are putting cameras in their homes and keeping them running, where they can hear it on their phone and various other things, so they can see what their agent is saying about their property and what their agent is doing to get their house sold, as well as listening in on conversations that are taking place during showings and during inspections. And I went online looking up, California, laws on this. Not that I am a lawyer by any means, but just wanted to educate myself, because I know it's, I think we're called like a two consent state, where both parties have to consent to a recording, which makes it a little tough, like for the fair housing testers and stuff, because the other party has to know that they're being recorded as well. But it was interesting because in the piece, it said that some situations are gray situations because you might think you're not still being, if you see a Ring doorbell, how do you know what the range is on that microphone and camera on somebody's Ring doorbell? Can it only catch you on the porch? Can it catch you in the driveway? Can it catch you out in the street? How much can they pick up? And it was like, well, I never really thought about that. But, if you see a Ring doorbell, by, at what part is that two-party consent? And they're recording, not everybody. Some people pay for the service to have recordings. Other people don't. But I don't know. What do you think, Lori?
I don't know. It's been around a little while, and yet it's still kind of new territory. And I think that if we don't think people are listening, then we're being really naive. Sellers are listening to showings, they're listening to the agents. I mean, we did hear during the pandemic, hey, my listing agent didn't follow the protocols they posted on the door. They didn't follow them. They didn't impose them. So we heard about some legal issues that came up last year related to that. So I think it's only the beginning.
Yeah. And I think that people should also keep in mind that it could also be possibly used as like a fair housing situation, discrimination complaint. Well, you saw me and you didn't like what you saw, so you didn't, entertain my offer or whatever. That, and again, you can't unsee what you've seen. It's kind of a gray area. If somebody has something that's recording people, they're supposed to disclose it. They're supposed to have a sign up. But, I was reading the listing agreement, and even then it's like they should disclose it. And it's kind of a weird one. So you pretty much have to assume that somebody can be listening to you no matter what, because was it the FBI guy or somebody else mentioned that, and I don't know the features on Alexa because I keep mine unplugged most of the time. Is it unplugged? Yeah, it's unplugged, so I can say this. So I guess they have this drop-in feature on Alexa where you can turn it on, and I don't know what it is, but you can hear what's happening in your house or something.
Oh, I'll try it. I have an Alexa, and I'll give it a try.
Yeah,
I'll test that out.
Might plug mine in and find out, but it's one of those things. It's one of those things that Alexa is recording what you're saying and what you're hearing. The FBI guy was pretty clear about that, especially if and it's like, don't go on those home networks, those neighborhood networks that they're trying to start up. I can't remember for the life of me what it's called, but
like Nextdoor.
No, there was like kind of like a intranet kind of thing for neighborhoods.
Oh.
I can't remember. If I can find it, I'll let you know the details. But they're like, boy, you want your security, any privacy, stay off of those.
Well, that seems like an obvious.
It does, doesn't it? But now,
are you that cheap? You need to have a community Wi-Fi. You can't have your own.
Well, it was. What did the FBI agent say? He was talking about the Internet of Things, which I always heard that term, and I'm like, what the hell does the Internet of Things mean? Because I didn't know. And it's smart devices. That's the things, or the smart devices, and they're all over the place. And there's like smart devices for neighborhoods, and that's the new intranet kind of thing. Is the houses that they're like, oh, well, we'll be part of whatever this thing is. And I can't remember what it is, but I heard that. I'm like, why?
Yeah, no thanks.
But anyhow, so maybe you're not just watching the people in your house. Maybe your neighbors are watching the people when you're selling your house too. I mean, just. So I think we all have to assume that people are listening. People are watching. You want to have a conversation about the house, do it down the block Well, maybe not if they have the neighborhood internet. Another location. Or
Do it in
something.
another neighborhood.
Yeah, because Alexa could be hearing it. They could have cameras that you don't know about, ring doorbells. Raj puts in here, you can have video, but for audio, everyone has to agree. There's people, I know people that have listened, they have told me recently that they have listened in on conversations when they were selling their home saying, I don't care, I don't like that person anyhow. We're not going to, sell the house to them. And it's just like, the person's probably talking, thinking, well, I'm sitting here at this house checking everything out, not realizing the seller's over here critiquing them, having, their feelings hurt or whatever.
Yeah, that was the case. Because we were together when we witnessed that.
Yes. So, one thing that I saw that was really interesting that one agent that I've seen do this in his comments, which I thought was really smart now. Seller may have cameras or recording devices in property. Assume that they do, was his disclosure in his listings. And you know what? At first, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cheesy. And now it's like, I think I'm going to steal that and put it.
Yeah, it's really good verbiage. I was looking in my trusty book. Let me show it off. My nerd book.
Oh, that is a nerd book. I know what I'm getting.
With all my additions, all the loose pages that are like this thick from all the new forms from last year. I'll remind everybody there was a form introduced June of 2020, the PBOH, Property Visit and Open House Advisory. Maybe a really good time to dust that one off. It's not required, but it's a really good form. And there's 5 items on it. And number 1, recording devices. And I'll read it. It's a little long, but I'll read it. Audio or video recording devices, or both, may be present on any property that is being visited or viewed, and such devices may be located both inside and outside of the main dwelling, and any outbuilding or accessory unit or structure on the property, basically anywhere on the property. There may or may not be any notices of the presence of such devices posted on the property. Seller may or may not be aware of all features on such devices. Such devices may be capable of recording visitors' conduct, conversations, and utterances, and more. Accordingly, seller may be able to determine visitors' impressions of the property and its condition, negotiation strategy, and the content of any discussions visitor has with visitor's broker or others regarding the price, terms, and conditions of an offer to be made, and visitor's ability and willingness to agree to something else. This could kill your negotiation strategy. Visitor is advised to be alert for the presence of such devices and to take the possibility of the presence of such devices into account during the viewing of the open house. And I would argue this would be any previewing that you're doing as well. So that's PBOH, Property Visit and Open House Advisory. Take a look at it. I mean, I think that's a great document to introduce to anyone that is going to be working with you looking for properties. Don't wait until you write the offer to do it. I mean, this is designed to be done up front.
What is the acronym for that form again?
It's PBOH, Property Visit and Open House Advisory.
Okay. Let's see. Somebody had asked for that. And
yeah, and the other items, just to share quickly, the other items, because I said there's 5 items. The second one is visitor safety, and it's related to hazards, animals and pets, accompanying minors, and then risk of injury. Those are the other topics that are briefly mentioned. They are much shorter as compared to that first one that I read. But it's a good advisory to introduce your client. It's not property specific, so you can fill it out once, and this new buyer you're working with will be fully informed. And that's a great CYA for your file. Should they say, I didn't know I was being recorded? Well, remember when we talked about that sellers may or may not have something, and they may or may not know the features of those items. And the creepiest one is the refrigerator that is going to videotape. So watch out what you say in front of the fridge.
And dummy me, you know, I didn't know like this little button right here is turn the microphone off. So Alexa doesn't pick up everything you say. You can keep Alexa on, but you can turn off the microphone. So you're not being recorded constantly. You don't even know what these features can do. I mean, all I do is plug this in and say, Alexa, turn on the radio on a Saturday morning. You know, the rest of the time it's like, somebody's listening to me. And
yeah, I only use mine for news and for music. In my house, we talk a lot of shit about Alexa, though. So when she doesn't
I
understand.
upset Siri the other day. I said something, and you know, it set Siri off on my computer, and I said something, and it's like, I don't like to be talked to like that. And I'm like, oh my god, I offended Siri.
Wow. Yeah, Alexa hasn't talked back. She does sort of sigh at me though when I ask for the same music over and over again. She's like, playing Maroon 5.
Maroon 5, yeah.
Anyways, okay, so I have a class at 10, so I am going to need to wrap up very quickly, but I want to do this shout out for our Orange County Realtor members. Just a reminder, we do have the RAW group, Realtor and Affiliate Wellness, and just want to read real quick. The group's mission is to create a fellowship for realtors and affiliates of Orange County Realtors who may be struggling with personal or work-related stress, anxiety, depression, alcoholism, or any form of addiction to come together and share their experience, strength, and hope by providing a safe meeting place. So this is a deep topic, the safety conversation. And if anyone feels that they just need to kind of hear a little bit more, not specifically on this topic, but how people are coping, maybe different coping mechanisms, or just to kind of be amongst a group. I've attended a few times, and when I was going through, my mom was really ill, and when I was going through that, and then my mom passed away, I found some peace going to that group. I didn't speak, but I was just there. And I felt like it was virtual, but I felt like the big group hug really was beneficial. And so it's not like kumbaya. I mean, it's just, it's all things. It's really fascinating. So I don't know if they may add an additional meeting for August, since this shooting happened, right in our community, but then I had just emailed over saying maybe we want to consider having another meeting. There may be some people who would like to just attend, but the next scheduled meeting is September 7th, a virtual meeting. And so if you want more information, just go to the Orange County Realtors website and go to the search and just type in RAW, R-A-W.
And there's one other thing that I saw posted on Facebook today, and I shared it in Deliberately Fair Housing, but I don't think I shared it in the nerdy group here. And that is a clubhouse group called Real Talk Racism and Real Estate. They're having a conversation this evening, and their guest is Eric Brown, the agent that was handcuffed along with his client and client's son in a vacant home. Because one of the neighbors called the cops on him, saying, oh, look, there's black guys in this vacant house. They're there to rob it, when he was a realtor showing this house to a potential buyer. And it's all over the news. It was all over the news all weekend. And they're going to have him on to talk about the experience this evening. So that I'll put a link in here in the comments here in case anybody's interested. I have nothing to do with the group, and I can't guarantee, what is going to be said, but I think to hear this gentleman's take on what happened, because it appears that both from copies of text messages that were being passed around on the internet between him and his wife, was both the police and him and his client were really upset with the neighbors, and the police were upset. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more on this. But again, an awareness that we need to, understand that not everybody's treated the same way, because I don't think somebody's going to call the cops on me if I'm showing a vacant home. But anyhow, on a lighter note, Matt says, stop saying Alexa. She's listening and responding at my home.
Oops. Sorry.
Sorry.
Mine's in the other room. So
I just keep mine unplugged. So
but
anyhow,
I was watching something on Amazon Prime last night, and one of the characters' name was Alexa, and the damn thing kept lighting up. And I'm like, Amazon, you know better. You're screwing with
they
us.
probably did that on purpose.
Because it was an Amazon original show. Like, they know better. Yeah, they probably did.
Oh, brother. Well, you've got 4 minutes to get to your class. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up a little early this week, but hey, 4 minutes is 4 minutes. So thank you all for joining us today. You know, some heavy information, talk about it with your agents or your broker, and, you know, uncomfortable conversation indeed, but I think we probably need to have some more of these right now during these very strange days that we are experiencing. So on that note, let's try to go out and have a wonderful day. Yep. And Lori's going to go to class. So on that note, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Go out and sell a house.
Be safe, everybody. Take care.